stated, though, because the last time we met, we said we would try to actually draft it into a local law so that we could see specifically what the proposal would be. But in summary, what this current draft does is it essentially expands the uses that are permitted in the zone, but they still retain the whole concept of the relationship to medical services suggested in there now, taken out some of the proposals that were made originally, but we've still made proposals in there for just general offices as opposed to just medical offices. We have the outdoor recreation idea in there, and some broader ideas on educational uses that would relate to biotechnology and health services, all things that sort of relate to health sciences. And beyond that, we haven't suggested, dramatic changes. We talked about adding residential uses as an accessory use to any of the other permitted uses, like medical facilities, so that there could be staff, there could be students, but there's nothing in there beyond what's already in the zone with regard to residential uses. In the zone now, you do permit senior housing, retirement communities, and so on. So that's all in there now. So what we really are up to is deciding whether this is, in fact, where you are at this point in thinking, and what next steps you may want to take, given the status of the moratorium and the issue, the fact that we're getting to the point where the hospital is trying to market, the development corporation is trying to market the hospital site, what kind of uses could occur there, and I think that what, in fact, I guess Dave is not going to be here today. No. The fact is that regardless of what you do, you still have to go through some adoption process. So even if you agree in principle to all these changes, you still have to go through hearings, secret process, which may not be very extensive. So there is going to be some time before someone can do something within that zone. Anything that's not consistent now. And one of the things that I wanted to suggest, what we sent back out to you was really just a revised version of that table, which I think I sent out earlier, and reflected our last workshop. And I think you asked us Dave has, but he hasn't had a chance to comment on it. But you'll see there are a number of changes proposed to the code, just like we did with this land use. So I didn't know whether you felt whether you agree at this point, two, whether there might be merit to reaching out to have the stakeholders get together, like they were most of them were here. To have a meeting on what they think is appropriate, or go right toward a public hearing and a public discussion. So I think that there's several things that suggestions you need to decide on where you head.
Half time.
What, me?
Half time.
Well, yeah, I think the last moratorium was finished in March.
Yes, I think we.
Well, before we go on to all the stakeholders, I just want to say, speaking for myself, that I'm glad that we did this. I'm happy with it. My concern was, and I was the one who suggested we had to loosen this up a little bit, especially in conditional uses where we have the planning board involved, especially to open it up to, say, just general business offices, because if we make it too restrictive so that the property can never be marketed, it's going to do none of it. It's not going to do anything good at all. So I'm happy with the direction. I don't know what you think, but
I have a couple of questions. When you get to parking over here,
Yeah.
I'm concerned about in the adult retirement communities, if I read it correctly, what you're saying is one parking space for every 3 dwelling units. And that may have been appropriate in the past when people stopped driving younger. But I know from the other adult communities that we visit, we run into a difficulty because certainly no more than 1 per unit. But, they have regular guests. And I'm afraid that 1 unit for every 3 dwelling units is not enough parking. My other question was, under the residential units, which is underlined accessory,
Yes.
the cafeterias, transient resident facilities for visiting medical personnel, what does that define to me?
Where are we?
I'm sorry, number 2 under accessory use
Two under
permitted by
D.
right.
Yeah.
2D.
Oh, okay, yeah, actually, I think that was transient. Well, yeah, they were, the idea, I think that's in the code, but that's,
Yeah.
I think it was the people who were there temporarily, like maybe, visiting.
They don't bother me, they're only visiting. It's concept of cafeterias.
Oh, the
What does that
cafeteria.
mean?
Yeah. Because we had this whole discussion
Even if it's
about
in the code
restaurants.
before, now's the
Right.
time to tweak anything
Yes,
that's...
yeah.
See if they have, there's an existing definition for you?
Well, the cafeterias is the definition.
Yeah, I mean, I think I think what the idea was that this is cafeteria to provide food services to the people that were there.
But in all other areas, we have it that there can be, food provided for special events, for things like that, but it would not be produced on site. Cafeteria has a different definition
Yeah.
to me, so that's why I'm asking for clarification.
More permanent.
It's permanent.
Facility.
Yeah.
Um,
I think it's time, by the way, I think the rest of it I have little question about, and I think it is time to move forward. But I'd like a definition of that so that I know what it
not
means.
in-
I don't want, I like when things are clear, whether I agree or I disagree, so that whoever, there's no, what did they mean later on.
I don't think it's defined in there now.
I don't either, which is why I think we need to.
Pretty narrowly defined, it's separate to the hospital right now.
Right.
Yeah. Well, the hospital, I mean, that's
has-
the kind of facility. It was not necessarily intended as a facility that would be open to the public.
I
to people there.
totally agree, but I think it just needs to be defined.
Okay. Yeah.
Define wrong the whole portion of the building would conceivably include the church. That's what I would do. And I think we'll be the same with you.
In other words, what thinking that
Well,
if
if any
it's too narrowly defined, then it
Yes.
couldn't be used by people coming into the town.
Right now, the hospital says anybody can come in and have lunch there for whatever's being served. So there is a very good point to be made there.
Yeah,
And so,
but they would be people being serviced at the facility.
correct.
So even if it's defined in that way, so it doesn't turn into Burger King restaurant for all the
Agreed.
kids in the area, I think that controls the intent,
Right.
or fulfills the intent.
You also mean that if it became an office building, that it's okay to have a cafeteria there. Now, you tell me.
You're asking
whether you-
one trustee,
Well,
my
I'm
opinion.
asking anybody if they can
Well,
define this.
I work in an office building like that. I don't know whether you really need definitions. No one that I've never seen anyone walk into my building to eat. It's there because it's convenient.
Right.
And you can walk across the hall, and because you're in an office building, you've got to go out and get into a huge parking lot and get in your car and drive somewhere if you don't like what's
Exactly.
selected. So it's usually pretty, standard bill of fare, and when you just want to eat at your desk and you're in a hurry, so, definitionally, how you would address any of that, I don't know. It's a practical matter.
I don't mean to be difficult, I'm just...
No, I think I'm the one who's raised the difficulty.